I got a new video. This one is a new topic, is when to trade gold for silver or silver for gold, when the ratio is right. And one of my subscribers asked me that question, what was my personal opinion on that, and if he was right when he did his video on that as well. I'm going to put a link below for anybody who didn't see my other videos that I had for the gold-silver ratio, especially the last one or the latest one, which is the truth about gold to silver ratio. So I'm going to put the link down below for the ratio of every year since 1833. So I did a little study, not too much, and as we know from the part that I did, for those who did watch the videos, for those who didn't, I'm going to sum it up real quickly for you. Silver has lost its value to gold for the last 100+ years, since 1900. Okay, if you want to go from 1900 to today's date, the average ratio was 48 to 1. Okay, if you want to break it down since the gold standard, since the gold went off the dollar, it was 53 to 1. And if you want to go to the last 24 years, since 1990, the gold to silver ratio is 66 to 1. And today, it is 64 to 1. Okay, so finding out these time frames to when to trade silver for gold is very tricky, especially in this world today. I'm not too sure if that's even going to be too much in play, and I'll explain in a little bit. But first, let's go through the years. I went from 1930 to present, of what years through decade, broke them down to decades. So in 1930, silver for gold was the way to go until the end of the years, the last 4 years. Then it was pretty much going for the gold. It was a wild swing. In the beginning it was silver, and then it ended up to being gold. And it ended up being dramatically towards gold. So if you got silver in the beginning and you traded your gold for the silver and you still thought that it was going to stay that way for a while, you got hammered, because gold went all the way up to 97 to 1 ratio. Okay, in the last 4 years, at the last year, 1939. 1940, well, pretty much, you know, if it's at 97 to 1, you got a good bet to trade in your gold then for the silver. You're going to win that bet. I think we all can agree on that one. And of course it was, as it went from 97 to 1 all the way down to 40 to 1 in the 90s. So you did a very good killing in that area if you did the right move, which most people would. But 1930 was pretty tricky. The first half was silver, and then the second half was gold. Okay, so your timing has to be either perfect or just damn lucky through some of these years. 50s, it was even. Started off at 37 to 1, it pretty much stayed at 37 to 1. So it didn't matter what you had, you pretty much stayed within that decade in the same wealth category. 1960, it was gold for silver. It went from 39 to 1 down to 17 to 1. And that was a big rally point years for the silver, especially towards the end of the 60s, because that's when the government took it off our gold or our coinage, because silver just outright paced inflation, and it cost too much money to have them in our quarters and dimes and stuff of that nature. So now we're going into the 70s, when we got off the gold standard. Well, it's going to be gold. You're going to want to have your money in, and not silver. So if you had the silver, you would want to trade it in for the gold at those times. And it went from 22 to 1 to 37 to 1. Not a dramatic move, but it is a wealth transfer if you did it. 1980s, well, it was definitely silver for gold again. It was a big year for gold, actually. It went from 37 to 1 back to 94 to 1. So another huge transfer of wealth from one part of the precious metals into another. And gold had 2 of them. Okay, as silver had 1 so far. 1990, well, you pretty much if it went up to 94 to 1, you pretty much it's time to cash in the gold for the silver. That's a no-brainer again. And it was right. 1990s, gold for silver was the way to go, as it basically went from 94 to 1 all the way down to 56 to 1. So you did very well in that category as well. And from the 2000 era to now, it pretty much stayed pretty steady from the 50 to 1 ratio to the 60s, high 60s to mid 60s, as it is 64. So it really hasn't done very much for trading wise today. You might want, if you want to think about it as price wise, you can maybe think about it as price wise and say, hey, $20 silver is a better bet than $1270 or $1,271 in today's market for gold. So that was by categories of the decades of breaking it down of which one was the best to do. And gold did outdo silver a little bit in that area, of course, as the years go on, as I said. In my gold to silver ratio in history-wise since 1900, silver has lost its value to gold through those time frames. And it's all timing, luck, feeling. But everybody knows once you hit into the 90s, it pretty much is all silver. You better get that gold out of your hands to put it into the silver. But anywhere else, man, it's craps, pretty much. Today's world, it's 64 to 1 today. And the average the last 23 years is 66 to 1. So is it still good to trade in your gold for silver? I say no. And this is the reason why I say no. There is a lot less gold out there in this world today for us to buy as investors or preserving your wealth from big countries and banks than there is silver. There's a lot of silver more out there than there is gold. Call BATMEX. How much more silver do you think they have per ounce than gold in their warehouse? Providence Metal, you name it. You name all the dealers out there. I guarantee you every single one got a massive amount more of silver than they do gold. Massive amount. The Colmex, the Volt, JP Morgan and everything, they're getting cleaned out of their gold. Literally cleaned out. China, Russia, India, they're buying up every piece of ounce of gold there is in this world. Actually, China's taking in more gold than there actually is produced every year. So now there's not a surplus of gold out there for people to buy. It's actually minus. So they're gobbling it up at all. So to me, gold is the metal to have when all this crisis happens, because there's going to be less of it out there for people to get their hands on. Silver, there's silverware, right? Silver's in a lot of other things than there is gold. Silver. There's a lot of silver in all these electronics that we own. A lot less gold, okay, out there for us to have our hands on. People can argue, oh, well, it's stocked up in the vaults. Well, yeah, that's because it's the best wealth preserver. Preserving of wealth is the best as gold, okay? This is why they're stocking it. Massive amounts. Something is coming. Huge. And this is why it's a big rush to get their gold, why Germany can't get their gold. JP Morgan was struggling to get all their contracts, getting out the gold. They just finally gave up 200,000 ounces of gold to their contract that was sold. It took them a while to get that. If they had so much gold in their vaults, why are people can't get it? Okay? This is why I would hold on to gold and do not trade it in for silver. Because when these crises happens, if there's a collapse everywhere, a lot more people are going to have silver than gold. Okay? So gold is always going to be more looked up as a more preservation of wealth, as there is a lot more wealth in a 1 ounce coin as there is in silver. But if you got 1,000 ounces of silver, that's going to be great. Okay, 100 ounces of silver, 10 ounces of silver, anything's better than nothing. I'm not saying don't buy silver, but if I would not trade gold for silver, unless the ratio goes to 80 to 91 again, then sure, I wouldn't trade any of my gold for the silver. I would just buy more silver if it gets that cheap. Okay, if it goes 90 to 1, hey, I'll just go out and buy a monster box of silver. I'm not going to trade my gold for that reason alone, because there's not as much gold to buy as there is silver. Everybody on here YouTube can probably buy a monster box of silver. Think you could buy a monster box of gold even if we had the money for it? No way. That's why I love gold also. All the banks, the countries are fighting over it. Wars were fought over gold, as Hitler did, trying to get some wealth back into Germany when it was so broke, trying to go to other countries and steal their gold. Doesn't go for the silver. No country goes for silver. And the reason why I believe that silver ratio is also in the 60s for the last 23 years, which is pretty bad. It definitely should be a lot more closer to 30 to 1, 20 to 1, maybe even 40 to 1, somewhere in that range, is because it became an industrially used metal since the 90s, 2000s, where everybody started buying more TVs, cell phones coming out, beepers. The technology got so much more advanced that it became more of an industrial metal, and besides, it is the #1 most manipulated market in the world, probably in history, is the silver market. Not just from the banks, but I also believe the corporations, the electronic corporations are in it too, all of them. They would have to be. We would be too. If you were the owner of Sony, of Samsung, or Toshiba, or any of those other those other companies that do with a lot of electronics, would you want to buy 10, 50 million ounces of silver a year at $20 an ounce of silver, or at $50 an ounce of silver? Of course you're going to be putting your billions of dollars in these political guys and banks, whoever can keep those metal prices down. This is why silver is the most manipulated in history, not just from the banks, but it's the corporations who are in it as well. Could it possibly break? Absolutely. Probably for a short term. I don't think it's going to be for a long term. I don't think gold and silver would stay at a 20 to 30 to 1, 40 to 1 ratio for very long, unless, which I believe that's what it's going to take for silver to go down to those ratios, is for it to go back into the gold standard. That the precious metals coming back into play as real money again. That's when the true ratios will come back and won't be manipulated. I believe that's the only way. The Federal Reserve and the banks and governments locked down from anybody ever cornering the market like they did in the 1980s, when basically it was best to have when silver went to $50 an ounce its first time. Okay, so if you would have sold your gold for silver before that, you made a killing. But if you did it when it happened, you got slaughtered after that, because gold was still the metal to have after that. Okay. So they have big spikes. Silver goes up much faster than gold, but also goes down a lot faster than gold. So if you're going to trade your gold for silver, you better do it quick and get that gold back into your hands as fast as you got it out. That's my recommendations on gold. The silver ratio of when to trade it. I believe I would never trade my gold, even at 9,900 to 1. I love my gold. Like I said, I'll just buy more silver. Just buy more silver. I don't want to give up that gold. Because what happens if somebody comes along and buys up all the gold and I can't get it back, or some shit happens? You think there's going to be a silver shortage? There'll be a gold shortage before there'll be a silver shortage. With all these countries buying up all the gold. The COMEX vault getting cleaned down. Countries still can't get their gold. People cashing their contracts can't get their gold. So if there's any precious metal true shortages, it's gold. Even though I've been hearing some stories about silver being a shortage, which it might be. The miners, I'm sure, are slowing down in their production since they're losing a lot of money. And record amounts of silver eagles are being bought month after month. So I'm sure Canada Maple Leafs are having records as well, or close to it. And Perth Mint are selling tons of silver too. Everybody's selling their precious metals. UK didn't even have enough gold. They sold out all their gold coins. UK Royal Mint. Okay? Sold out. Done. Cleaned. That never happened before. There's a big gold rush. The gold rush is coming back. It's in play. It's all a matter of time. I would just stick with your gold. Stay with your gold. Just keep buying silver. The ratio for silver is favoring the silver. The price is favoring silver. So buy silver, keep your gold. Thanks, everybody.